Hello. Thanks for watching. This is a collection of 3 true scary paranormal stories from Maryland, USA. Links in description. Number 1. Haunted Property. By whitelightlady. Date 2017 March 24th. State. Maryland. Greetings. This occurred in 1999. When I used to live on the eastern shore of Maryland. My husband and I had just purchased a brand new mobile home located in a very nice and well taken care of trailer park. It was our first home for us, my husband, 5-year-old daughter and newborn son, and I. It all started when we had a christening for my son there at our home. My uncle is an ordained minister, Baptist, and we had about 30 to 40 relatives and friends there. During the christening, some of us, not everyone, heard what sounded like a cinder block being dropped on the floor in my son's bedroom. My uncle heard it, as I did, and 15 other people. I don't understand how the other 20 people didn't hear it. Anyways, after that happened, things started escalating. A week after that, my daughter came running in my bedroom one night, scared out of her mind. She wanted to sleep with us because she seen a man come through her wall and out her window. I figured she had a bad dream, so I told her she could sleep at the bottom of the bed. 5 minutes later she said, "Mommy, I see that man again. He just went in my bathroom. If you were laying at the bottom of the bed, you can see throughout the whole trailer." This scared me, and I asked her if the man went into my son's room. She said no. The next morning, when I got up, I went to get the baby, my son, and noticed the brand new blue living room carpet had a small patch of white larva worms coming out of it. I'm a clean person, so naturally this freaked me out. I told my husband about it and he got rid of it. A few days later, my daughter went to stay with my in-laws for a few days because she was scared to sleep in her room, plus she loved staying with her grandmother. A couple days after she left, I was on my way home from the grocery store with my son. I pulled into the driveway and noticed a perfectly round-shaped black spot on my daughter's bedroom window. It was the size of a cantaloupe. I went in the house, put the baby in the playpen, and went to my daughter's bedroom to see what it was. It was blowflies. Big ones. They were only on her window and not anywhere else in the house. I killed them all, and I counted about 80 flies. I called the exterminator to come out and have a look. This is what really freaked me out. After analyzing under the trailer and around the entire house, he said, "Ma'am, you don't have anything dead under or around your trailer. And it's strange because blowflies only come around dead things." He didn't treat the area. But after that, I never saw the bugs again. And I did some investigating and found out my neighbors were having the same strange issues, and also found out the property itself was haunted. It used to be a pig farm back in the 1800s, and the owner was murdered there on the property. Eventually, we moved because my husband and I were having marital problems. I apologize for this being so lengthy. But every bit of it is true, and other spooky things happened when we lived there. But I'll save that for another time. Thank you for reading my story. Number 2. Knock, Knock. By JanelleX89. Date. 2016 July 6th. State. Maryland, USA. This just happened to me and my brother's girlfriend a little over an hour ago. So about 9:30 p.m. I need to give you a little layout of the upstairs in my house. You come up the steps from the living room and straight ahead is the attic playroom. Turn a small corner and on the right is my room and the left is my brother and his girlfriend's room. Now moving on. I was in my room on my computer. My brother's girlfriend was in her room and my brother had just went downstairs to use the bathroom. I had my door shut, but I could hear our dog Autumn growling at something, and I kept hearing a knocking sound. I hear my brother's girlfriend, we'll call her Rose, telling something to stop it. I assumed she was talking to the other dog Alex, since Alex likes to torment Autumn. And I also assumed it was Alex making the knocking sound. So I went back to my computer. About 5 minutes later, I hear my brother come up the steps and I hear Rose talking to him, asking him why he kept playing around and knocking and making the dog growl. That piqued my interest and I walked out to verify that she also heard the knocking. She said yeah. She was in her room and she heard the knocking and heard Autumn growling and thought it was my brother. She looked out in the hall and kept telling my brother to stop. But when she looked out, she didn't see him, but she did see Autumn standing in front of the open door to the attic playroom. She was about to check it out when she heard the knock again and decided to stay in her room. I told her I heard the same thing and thought that it was Alex, but my brother confirmed that Alex was downstairs with him. So not only was something messing with the dog, Rose talked to it because she thought it was my brother. My brother thinks we are nuts, but I know what I heard. Thank you for listening to my story. Number 3. Haunted from the Day I Moved In. By the Bigby 68. Date: 2015 September 28th. State: Maryland, USA. My wife and stepdaughter moved into a small colonial-style home 7 years ago. I love the house. It was built in 1900 and it has a lot of character. The town we live in is rich in history. My wife was very pregnant with our son at the time, and my stepdaughter, I will call her Kayla, was 5 years old. The day we moved in, my wife and I were unpacking dishes when Kayla came in and said, "Mommy." A shadow man walked out of my closet and disappeared into the wall. This is when it started. I was a complete skeptic regarding ghosts and demons and stuff like this. I admit it gave me goosebumps when she said that, but was dismissed all the same. We were both too busy to give it much thought. I work every day during the week and my wife stayed home. A few weeks after moving in, my wife began complaining about noises coming from upstairs. Kayla's room in particular. She described the noises as a bouncing ball. The floors in my house are all bare wood. She said something is bouncing a rubber ball through the hall and at the top of the stairs. I really didn't think much of it. I figured she was bored and her mind was playing tricks on her. However, she continued to tell me of these episodes, and of toys moving across the floor in the living room by themselves. This continued for months. One Saturday afternoon, my wife and the kids went shopping. I was home alone and watching TV. I heard a noise at the top of the stairs. It sounded like someone taking their bare feet and smacking them on the wooden floor. It was so loud and clear that I didn't need to turn the TV down to hear it. It had occurred to me that the sound I was hearing could easily be interpreted as a rubber ball bouncing upstairs, as my wife had been complaining of for over a year. These things continued over a few years. Hearing noises and things moving around. My wife and I began having marital problems a few years into our marriage, and I began sleeping on the couch. This is where I have witnessed many unexplained things, and it is during this time that I was convinced something is going on here. It is noteworthy to point out that neither of my children would sleep upstairs anymore because they would see and hear things and were too frightened. They took over my bedroom along with my wife, and I slept either on the couch downstairs or upstairs in my son's room. One evening while on the couch, I was awoke to that foot smacking, ball bouncing sound. This time the sound was directly behind my head that was on the armrest of the couch. I was terrified and couldn't bring myself to turn to look as it was so close. Then the entire couch bumped like an inch towards the wall. This really freaked me out. Another evening while sleeping on the couch, I woke from a deep sleep and saw in front of my eyes what appeared to be a bunch of hairy spider legs about 15 inches long and jointed in the middle of each leg. They came together in a spiral, diamond shape and began to rotate counterclockwise. I sat wide-eyed and fully awake, not believing what I was seeing, a foot in front of my face. And then just as it appeared, it dissipated into a smoke-like mist. I began sleeping upstairs more frequently after the spider leg episode. It is there that I began hearing knocking on my wall from what seemed to be the other side of the closet in my stepdaughter's room. This continued constantly and frequently. The knocking would become so loud and persistent that I would purposely turn up the TV to keep from hearing it. One night the knocking got louder and louder as I raised the TV's volume until I got so frustrated that I yelled at whatever it was to just stop. Leave me alone. Ironically, it listened and I hadn't heard anything of that sort since. I will never forget the first time I actually saw what appeared to be a human but was not. I was up late. The kids were asleep, as was my wife. All were in the same room. I was watching the late news when in the doorway of my kitchen I saw what I thought was Kayla peeking around the corner. The kitchen light was on, so her face was unclear as her body was lighted from behind and appeared dark to me. I told her to go back to bed. A few minutes later, she was back. I told her again to go back to bed but was a little more stern in my voice. Then, yet again she appeared, frustrated this time at her disobedience. I got up to put her in bed. When I opened the door, Kayla was fast asleep in her bed. Drool was on her face, so I know for fact. Who or what I saw was not her. Years had passed at this point. We had all joked about having a ghost in the house, and even my friends and family have all had their own experiences within my house. I always tell people that if you are a skeptic, you should come spend a night at my house. When the spirits became mean. Just this past year my wife and I had split up. My son David lives with me. I recall waking up from a nap on my couch with an obvious bite mark in my arm. I thought this to be odd but figured I must have had my head on my arm and left the indentations of my own teeth. That is when I became curious and tried to mimic the bite. It is physically impossible to get my head in such a way to leave a mark as this. Recently I met a wonderful woman and she has 4 young children. After several months dating, they moved in. It is at this time that my son David began to be confronted by some spirit that lives in his closet. The very same closet that on the first day moving in, the shadow man came out of and disappeared into the wall, as my stepdaughter Kayla put it. A month ago my son, just turned 6 at this time, was taking a bath upstairs along with my girlfriend's 3-year-old son Evan. I heard my son crying and yelling for me. I ran upstairs and saw he was very upset and crying and just kept saying to me, "Daddy, I want you. Daddy, I want you." He never explained why he was so upset. The next evening, while my girlfriend Ashley and I were sitting on the front porch, my son David came out. Ashley asked David why he was so upset the previous night. He went on to say that he sees a boy that he can only see, and the boy smacked him in the face while in the bathtub. Come to find out, this is no boy at all but a man that is larger than me, and I am 6 feet 300 pounds. This thing, as I call it, has been talking to my son for weeks and has convinced him he is a boy. When I asked him to describe Alan, his friend, he said he wears a white shirt with black stripes and jeans and has roses in his back pocket. I asked what the roses are for, and he explained Alan has a girlfriend, Amy, that he does not make love to anymore, and he gives the roses to another girl. This is when I freaked out. My 6-year-old son has no idea what making love is and still does not. I asked again what had happened in the bathtub. He went on to explain Alan came in and used the bathroom, and when he turned around, he smacked David in the face. He then went to smack Evan in the face too, but his hand kept going through Evan's head and Evan can't see Alan. I was upset at this point and told David that he needs to tell Alan if he wants to talk to someone, you tell Alan to come talk to me. He said to me and pointed to an empty chair. Dad, he is sitting right there. You can tell him yourself. Shivers down my spine. That night I told Alan to talk to me. That is the night things began to really spiral out of control. That thing, Alan, spoke to me through my Siri on my iPhone. Ashley and I were going to bed when my Siri responded to someone speaking to it. If you have an iPhone, you know that you have to depress the button and speak to your phone in order to get a response. I never touched my phone. This happened just 2 nights later as well. Ashley and I were making love, and when done my Siri went off again. This time I screenshot its response. It was saying nasty things like "I have F at king 15 inches for you." We were shocked. Ever since we became aware of Alan and we intervened through him and my son. Loud banging noises. Doors opening and shutting on their own. Objects moving out of place. Voices. Footsteps. Shadows moving throughout. Electronic devices failing. All sorts of crazy things began to happen. We felt as if we were under attack. I was finally to the point to reach out for help. A close family member recommended I contact an acquaintance of theirs, and I did that very same day. I spoke to him and a female colleague that evening. They scheduled a walk through the next day. They came and immediately saw, heard, and felt things in my house. Needless to say, they were quite excited to get in and investigate my house as they said it was extremely active with multiple spirits. So here it is Monday. After the Saturday night they did their investigation. Let's just say that any skeptic they had brought with them during the investigation is no longer a skeptic. The flashlights were turning on and off constantly on command. They all saw shadows, orbs, and such. They heard sounds and voices. Dolls they had placed moved on their own. Those red K2 meters. They were pegged red in every room of my house. It was so eventful. They had no time to make any judgments as to how to get rid of whatever has taken over my home. I expect to hear back soon with all the evidence and as to how they are going to go about cleansing my home. I will keep you posted as this is an ongoing process. Just last night I had something rubbing and patting my shoulder as I tried to sleep. Got up this morning for work and my TV was on by itself. Every day something happens. There are so many things that have happened over the years here. I don't have the space or patience to write all of them. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. If you want me to tell your story, please DM me. A special thank you to the storytellers on yourghoststories.com. Links in the description. Hello. Thanks for watching. This is a collection of 3 true scary paranormal stories from Maryland, USA. Links in description.